Okay,
trying to help. And yeah, I'm here now. Thank you.
Great. Okay, everybody, I think we're ready to get started again. So thank you very much for joining us in Strand 2, where we have a practicing, a way of practicing presentation. And I would like to introduce Dr. Alex Runchman and Michael Thornton. Alex is from University College Dublin and Michael is from Beijing-Dublin International College. And as you can see here on their first slide, they're going to be talking about embedding the SDGs into an undergraduate academic English curriculum at an Irish-Chinese partnership college. Over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Lisa. I suppose I should point out, it looks like we're from different institutions, but actually we work together at Beijing-Dublin International College, which is a partnership between UCD and Beijing University of Technology. So I'm going to start off just giving a little bit of context to the project, and then Michael will mainly talk about the experience of practicing this in the classroom and working with students. So our project kind of arose 2 years ago, really, when University College Dublin released its UCD strategy 2020 to 2024, Rising to the Future. And one of the key strands of that strategy was creating a sustainable global society. This would be very much in line, I think, with what other universities are doing as well. And we were awarded a small amount of seed funding to develop a fully integrated undergraduate stage 1 curriculum at BDIC that was built around the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We were looking at curriculum review at the time anyway, so it was a very good opportunity to step in and try to promote the SDGs in this context. So the curriculum was very broadly designed by coordinators in Dublin and then implemented by Michael and the teaching team in Beijing. And I should say adapted and improved as well with regular feedback. And the goals of the project were really to provide a meaningful and authentic context within which students could develop their academic English skills. And we were thinking particularly about the undergraduate experience, the experience of undergraduates in China who were coming from a kind of high school experience and having to undergo a very significant transition in their learning, particularly towards more communicative, student-led and kind of critical approaches. And we wanted to relate this or give them opportunities to relate this to their own academic disciplines. So the students at BDIC are studying finance, Internet of Things engineering, electrical and information engineering, and software engineering. A lot of them interested in things like smart technology, for example, smart cities that can play a role in terms of sustainability. And how they could apply their learning to real-world international problems. We wanted to enable cultural literacy and try to help them establish a shared body of knowledge, and then obviously to develop critical thinking skills and global citizenship. Now, kind of as Simon sort of mentioned earlier, Goal 4 might seem to be the obvious SDG here, but our project is very much the students kind of learning and researching themselves about the 17 goals. Clearly, goal number 4, with the focus on education for sustainable development, not just about sustainable development, is at the center as well. And just a kind of an overview of, very, very brief overview of what the students do in the 2 semesters of their stage 1 curriculum. So in semester 1, they're introduced to the Sustainable Development Goals initially through SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. And a lot of the content focuses on issues around fast fashion, looks at alternatives like slow fashion, donations to charity shops, for example. And students will complete a group discussion, largely problem solution based, where they will be presented with a couple of different problems related to the fashion industry, and will evaluate different solutions. And then they will produce an argument essay on the topic of sustainable fashion. And then in our reading and listening assessments, we also use sources that address other issues that are related to sustainable development. And the intention is that the first semester scaffolds the second. So it's a more implicit introduction to issues of individual responsibility, informed decision-making, for example. And then we much more explicitly introduce the SDGs in semester 2, and the students embark on their own survey-based research projects to explore one of the issues related to one of the SDGs. So they'll initially work in groups and create surveys to find out in particular about perceptions, attitudes, and understanding of some of the SDGs, and will then individually write reports to share their findings. And this will be followed up by individual presentations that look at further directions out of the research that they've done. And again, the reading and listening assessments here relate to issues related to sustainable development. So I'm going to hand over to Michael at this point. And Michael, just let me know when you need me to move between slides.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Alex. So I'll now try to talk about what we do across the 2 semesters and how we try to implement this. So as Alex mentioned, in semester 1, we focus on SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production, but we don't introduce this explicitly. Students are not told about the SDGs at this stage, and we come to the topic via a more general discussion of sustainability before looking at the fashion industry specifically. We've found that students come to the semester with an idea of what sustainability means, but they mostly associate it with environmental issues. Typically, they might think of something like air pollution or climate change. I think the former is mostly from direct experience, personal experience of the students, and the latter is something that's addressed during their high school education. If you want to go to the next slide, Alex, then I can talk around these. Thank you. Students are encouraged to investigate sustainable fashion from a range of perspectives throughout this semester. So that includes the perspective of their own discipline. We'll introduce topics such as fast fashion, discuss greenwashing, and debate the best ways to reduce harmful and wasteful consumption patterns. Sustainable fashion, I think, works quite well as an introduction to sustainability, because I think, as Simon actually mentioned in the previous talk, it's something that is really directly related to all of our lives. I think he also used food as an example. And as a result, I think we generally get quite high engagement from students. We can begin with very simple questions related to students' actual consumption habits, where their clothes come from and things like that. And during the semester, this is the autumn semester, there are several very large shopping festivals taking place in China. There's one, the biggest one, the 11th of November, 11/11, which is, I think it's marketed as Singles Day for 11/11, but it's this kind of humongous shopping festival. And it's really interesting for students, I think, to reflect on this festival from the perspective of responsible consumerism and to evaluate it through that prism. Students are introduced to these topics via pre-selected texts. So we'll generally introduce these through adapted journal articles that have been simplified for them. And these will form the sources for the argument essay they'll write at the end of the semester. Alex, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Now, throughout the semester, we'll try to introduce alternatives to fast fashion. So it starts with a look at sustainability, then we'll look at the current state of the fashion industry, and in particular, the fast fashion model that predominates. And we'll introduce alternatives such as rental fashion, second-hand fashion, and slow fashion. And I think so this can work quite well in that students' instinct is to think, okay, this is an alternative, therefore it must be, a very good solution to these problems. But actually, they all have flaws and issues that encourage students to think a bit more deeply about them. And in particular, to consider the social and economic aspects rather than just the environmental aspect of sustainability. So rental fashion is often introduced or often argued as an alternative to fast fashion because it can reduce the number of purchases made. But when students investigate further, they'll find that the increased transportation costs, the increased use of resources in laundry, for example, actually mean that this is not what it's cracked up to be. It, in many cases, can actually be less sustainable than the existing model of consumption and production. Additionally, students might read about prominent instances of greenwashing by fast fashion companies. So we can look at the case of H&M and the recycling campaign, which is not necessarily how it was presented is not representative really of what it is. And I think overall, these topics encourage students to think a bit more critically about the alternatives to fast fashion, and they can see it as a more complicated topic than just, fast fashion bad, slow fashion, for example, good. In the process, we hope that students can develop more of a systems thinking approach, so they can look at the supply chain of the fashion industry, delivery services, material durability, pricing, labor conditions. And as a result, at the beginning of the semester, students might be mostly thinking about, how often they make purchases, what the clothes are made of, and how they throw them away. But hopefully by the end, they can take a broader view of sustainability in the fashion industry. And through this, we can introduce a lot of concession and rebuttal, which are explicitly taught and assessed in the argument essay at the end of this semester. We do have some challenges during this semester, though, that I'd quite like to talk about. If we could go. Thank you, Alex. So in the Chinese context, students are often inexperienced and unwilling to critique prominent companies or prominent institutions. Topics, for example, where sustainability issues could be interpreted as a result of government error, government failure, are very difficult for us to address in class. And so this might come up when we look at greenwashing. Students sometimes feel a bit anxious about criticizing a particular brand or company. It's very difficult to avoid politics in a discussion of sustainability and government, but that's something we have to try to navigate in this context. I think a year or so ago, there was a significant controversy related to supply chains and the use of cotton produced in northwest of China, for example. That's something that came up. All the students knew about it, but we couldn't really address that in class. And that's certainly a big challenge of this topic and sustainability in general. And when students arrive, sometimes the solutions they offer might be very general, particularly related to the government. It's sometimes seen as kind of all powerful and infallible, which makes it very difficult to critically evaluate things that have happened in the past, and all too easy to suggest solutions for the future. Overall, though, this builds the foundation for semester 2, where we look at the Sustainable Development Goals as a whole. So we build from this foundation of looking at fast fashion, and we actually introduce all 17 goals to students. Now, we're not able to teach all 17. We can't dedicate class time to each of them. So we introduce them in general. There's a lot of documents provided by the UN that are very useful resources for this. And then we allow students to choose an area of interest to focus on. And they'll work in groups and conduct a small research project based on this area of interest. Interestingly, the most popular topics repeat seemingly every year. We get no poverty. So SDGs 1, 4, 5, and 13. So for the unfamiliar, that's no poverty, quality education, gender equality, and climate action. Generally, the social and economic topics come up more often. I think this is related to the research project students are completing. So we ask students to develop a survey, and they conduct a survey amongst fellow students to try to investigate students' prior knowledge or attitudes towards the SDGs. And so I think that leads naturally more towards the social and economic issues. This it gives students a high degree of autonomy, and I think this has resulted in some quite positive and correspondingly high levels of student engagement. We do get a diverse range of topics covered. Now, there are lots of problems involved in that. It needs a lot of micromanaging from a teaching perspective, and it's difficult to spread your time between the groups. We're quite fortunate to have small class sizes, which makes this a little bit easier. And so if we move on to some of the other challenges here, probably the biggest challenge of this semester is the complexity of the assessment. Students are expected to provide or to produce an IMRAD report, and this is very challenging. There's a first-year undergraduate students who are unfamiliar with that genre at the beginning of the semester, and to introduce the Sustainable Development Goals, to introduce this research project while also dedicating class time to writing, it's quite tough. We found that at the beginning, when we first tried this, we overestimated how difficult it would be for students to, for example, develop software to share the survey. And these type of things have taken up relatively little time. And so we've been able to fit this in with some degree of success, I think. One thing that's also quite interesting is when giving these students autonomy to choose their own topic, we also need them to do some work to find some additional sources. And our students are unfamiliar. Google is not. It doesn't. You cannot. I think it's. I'm not sure if it's a case of illegality, but it's difficult to access Google in China, and students don't, or they haven't developed this reflexive ability to use a search engine because it's not something that happens very often. Social media is the most common way for people of that generation in China to search for information. And so when we are giving them responsibility to find data or find any kind of resource related to this topic, they need a lot of guidance when it comes to using keywords and things like that, and navigating the search engine. And then, Alex, would you like to take over for this
I'll
part?
conclude. I think,
Thank
Lisa,
you.
we're probably very near to our time limit.
Yeah, thank you.
So really the benefits, though, are that this really does promote independent thinking, critical thinking. And in our context, the students have 2 years of academic English tuition within their 4-year English medium degree program. So this then kind of prepares them for the second stage, which focuses more on kind of fully academic sourcing, reading, integrating fully academic peer-reviewed articles into their writing. And we find that the topics that students write about in stage 2 often link back to the Sustainable Development Goals as well. So that's been one of the findings from doing this for a couple of years. We're finding that it's a fantastic medium for teaching that functional language that's so important in EAP of problem solution, of cause and effect. And we work closely as well with subject lecturers who are often doing their own research in relevant areas. In BDIC, it's often to do with energy and particularly smart technologies to try and reduce energy use. This final slide just looks at some of the other kind of work in the field, and the first quotation here from Smaniotto just emphasizes that we found this in our context as well, that students initially didn't have a lot of knowledge about the SDGs, but were highly interested in them. And actually they became more interested in the economic and social issues than just the environmental ones. The model has been replicated at UCD's other partnership colleges in China, so Guangzhou Dublin International College, where I am at the moment, and then Chang'an Dublin International College of Transportation. And we're planning to kind of, for the next step, develop this by interviewing students and teachers about their experience and preparing an article on that. Now, there's a huge amount more that we could say, but I think we should probably finish there. And if anybody has any questions, we'd be very happy to hear them.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Owain, you have a question.
Yeah, hoping my sound's better this time. I was interested to hear about the simplified journal articles. On a very practical note, how do you go about making them for this course?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, simplified. I'd say adapted, sort of more than simplified. So another colleague of mine who's now actually moved off into another position, but there's no kind of denying that it's a lot of work identifying the articles. But we felt, because they're undergraduate students, adapted texts really worked. So we kept a kind of word limit of about 1,000 words, and then we would use. I've had a mind blank on the name of the not Interlinker, the great website that kind of does analysis of CFR level EAP, academic word list vocabulary, text inspector to adapt. But it actually involved a lot of one of us writing, the other proofreading and further adapting. So it did require quite a bit of preparation beforehand. And then we were obviously talking to Michael as well about that as well. But we kind of set word limits. We thought, okay, it was very similar, I suppose, to preparing a text for a reading exam. We're thinking, like, kind of, how are we going to pitch this? What's the level of kind of specialist vocabulary that's being used?
Thank you.
Hania,
we can probably talk more about that outside. Yeah.
Hania, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. It sounds like a really, really fascinating program. I'd like to ask about the development of the course, because it sounds like it involved quite a lot of strands. I mean, in the sense that it's very integrated with EAP, but also a lot of different subject areas, fashion and engineering, and I think you might have mentioned some others. So I just wanted to know, how did you co-create this course, and how much of it was kind of let's say an EAP course, how much of it was language focused, and how did you manage to integrate it with all the different